Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Tonight, we will be playing a horror game called Mycorrhiza. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. And if it's not, then I'm sorry. But since we've found a couple of Junji Ito inspired games, I was looking through the Steam and I found another one. Now, this one isn't directly inspired by Junji Ito himself. It's more of like any horror manga that you've ever seen pretty much inspired this game. So it's like an homage almost for all of those mangas that were created. Welcome to a world of distorted minds. Aw. My eyes were burning. It felt like hot coals were lying on my eyelids. I slowly opened them and attempted to heave myself up from the cold asphalt. But I failed. My whole body was heavy and my head felt like it was being squashed by a hydraulic press. After a few attempts, I finally succeeded and tried to make out where I was. The fog in my mind lifted slowly, and I realized that I was in a dark alleyway. My vision was still blurry, and I had trouble keeping my eyes open. But I could tell that I had never seen this place before. Slowly, my heart began to race. Was I abducted? Mugged? What had happened to me? I hastily checked my body, fortunately finding no wounds. Why was I feeling this weak then? Maybe I was drugged. As I tried to recall what might have happened to me, my eyes finally focused. I could see a house in front of me. It was the only house on the street with its lights on. Their dirty yellow glow shone through almost every single visible window. I felt some relief knowing that the tenants were awake. Perhaps they could tell me where I was. I approached the front door. It took me some searching to find the doorbell through the overgrown ivy. A deep gong rang out from within the house when I pressed it. The sound. Actually, let me increase the volume. I'm sorry. Okay, I increased the volume a little bit because I saw that it was a little low. I'm sorry. The sound, amplified by the cold wind cutting through my shirt, made me tense up. What an odd choice for a doorbell sound, I thought while rubbing my upper arms to warm myself. I waited. No one answered. My mind twisted in confusion. Why was no one coming? I rang the doorbell again. Then I tried knocking. No response. No one was coming. I didn't understand. Did they forget to turn off the lights and go on vacation? As a last resort, I tried turning the doorknob and it actually opened. Oh no. This worried me. Did something happen to the family living here? Perhaps I should find a phone and call the police. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the street. My heart started to pound as my body tensed up. I wanted to dash into the house, but my feet refused to move. What was that sound? Someone out there? Pictures of otherworldly monsters and armed kidnappers popped into my mind as my eyes scanned the darkness. The world was silent once more. I was still on edge, but my body slowly started to relax as I regained my composure. I decided I didn't want to find out what that was. Cautiously, I stepped through the threshold and firmly closed the door behind me. I entered a dimly lit hallway. The contours of minimalist furniture were illuminated by the street lights outside. I felt an immediate urge of guilt as I was trespassing into a stranger's home. Hello? Is anyone here? No answer. The house was eerily quiet. I cautiously ventured further down the front hall and stopped in front of one of the doors. A dim yellow light seeped silently through the bottom crack. I turned the knob, locked. Then the next one, also locked. They all seemed to be. I frowned. Why were the lights behind these locked doors lit? It gave me an uneasy feeling. The door at the very end of the hall was the only one that I hadn't tried yet. I grasped its handle and turned it slowly. It swung open to complete darkness. Once again, my body tensed up while my mind started to conjure horrific images. A beast with dislocated limbs and crooked teeth creeping towards me from the darkness. We have a crazy imagination if this is what we're thinking of. A floor littered with corpses and walls stained with blood. Jesus. A giant spider sitting in a corner waiting for its chance to strike. My hands shook as I reached to flick on the light. It was an utterly ordinary bedroom. My heartbeat slowly calmed down as I realized that I seemed to be safe. Oh? I felt almost silly getting scared of nothing. A quick search yielded nothing but barren, dusty shelves. The bed was the only meaningful object present. Slowly but surely, a wave of fatigue washed over me. With my adrenaline rush fading away, I found that I was more exhausted than I had realized. Like a worm wiggling its way into an apple, a single thought slowly invaded my mind. I had to sleep. Trying to fight it made it worse, as if some outside power was affecting me. Sleeping in a stranger's bed, in a stranger's home, was the last thing I wanted to do right now. But it was soon the only thing I could think about. As my consciousness faded, I had to sleep. The world turned dark, and the soft covers of the bed pulled me deeper and deeper into the black abyss. The intro. Oh, a hand? I mean, a head? What? That was the intro. Man, I thought I was in the game already. But I did forget to say this at the beginning. The game has three different chapters, and each door is a chapter. No wonder it was only one door. I was wondering, I thought I would unlock them as I finished one, but which one do we start on? Left, middle, or right? There's fingerprints on the right one. The middle one seems fairly fine, but the left one has scratches. Let's go with the left one. Cat. Pets. I shot awake, panting heavily, my clothes sticking to my skin due to all the sweat. My eyes darted around the room, but everything was quiet. I seemed to be safe. A nightmare. Seems like I just had a nightmare. I couldn't remember it anymore, but it must have been horrifying. Chills were still running down my spine. It was just a dream, just a nightmare, nothing more. After calming down, I decided to take another look around the house. The fact that no one was here, even though the lights were on, was still nagging at the back of my mind. but I was more confident that I'd be able to find help now that I was daytime. I left the bedroom to retry the doors just in case. They were still locked. I just wanted to go home and take a shower. I smelled my clothes, and they indeed had started to smell slightly sour. This place seemed to have nothing left to offer. I'd be better off out in the streets now that it was daytime. So this place doesn't have a shower? If I wasn't missing my wallet, then I would be getting something to eat as well. I was starving. Left the house for the bright sunlight. The back streets didn't seem so bad anymore. I found it to be rather cozy and quiet. I made my way down the path until I heard the faint sound of conversation in the distance. A weight lifted from my heart when I first glimpsed people walking around in a pedestrian area. There weren't many of them, and as I looked around, I got the feeling that this was a rather small town. Trees and flowers were planted at regular intervals, which gave it more of a rural atmosphere. It didn't matter. I could finally ask for help. "Excuse me, could you tell me where I am?" The woman blinked at my approach. She frowned and scowled in my general direction. "This is Kejamite. Kejamite? I hope I said it right." She looked uncomfortable talking to me, so I thanked her and let her be. Kejamite. I'd never heard of a town with that name. Where? How did I end up here? The thought of being somewhere I didn't recognize scared me. How was I supposed to get back home if I didn't have the slightest idea where to go? I took a deep breath to calm myself down. My next best bet would be asking someone to allow me to make a call from the mobile phone. I approached an older man in a business suit. "Excuse me, may I use your phone? I'm a bit lost and would like to call a friend of mine so he can pick me up." His lips curled into a grimacing frown. Sorry. I'm in a bit of a hurry." I approached person after person, but I had no luck. No one wanted to lend an unkempt, half-dressed stranger their phone. As I made my way through the side street, I overheard two elderly women. "I heard of some violent incidents recently. Most got away with just a flesh wound, saying that they were attacked by someone or something." "Yeah, I heard that too. I wonder if it has something to do with the pet disappearances. I heard of another cat that hadn't come back in several days." I was so focused on the conversation that I almost ran into a girl. I mumbled an apology until I realized that she had approached me on purpose. Hi. Hi. You need to call someone, right?" She extended her hand and offered me her phone. "How did you know?" "I've seen you asking people for one." She nervously shuffled her feet and glanced away. "Thank you. I won't take long." I took her phone. It was a red flip phone with a small panda hanging from a strap. The top bar read, "May's phone." A background was set to a picture of herself in a pedestrian area. The place in the picture looked oddly familiar, but I was likely just imagining it. I brushed that thought aside and dialed a friend's number. But the call didn't go through. I tried it again, but the result was the same. Maybe their phone was turned off. I tried my parents' house phone, then my job's front desk, then my boss's personal cell. Each time the call failed. I was sure that I had the right numbers. Maybe the phone had bad connection. Seems like the calls won't connect for some reason. Maybe you will have more luck trying a landline. My phone does act up sometimes. You might be right. Still, thank you. I didn't want to hold her up any longer, so I gave her the phone back. After a rushed farewell, I wandered off. I wanted to quickly look for another way to get in contact with someone I knew. It occurred to me that I should have asked her for directions to the police station. I turned to look for her, but she had already vanished. As I made my way through town, I could definitely feel the tension in the air. She was right. Everyone was on edge. When I was passing by an alleyway, something caught my eye. They were too big to be rats. I couldn't really make anything out of other than their eerie, glowing eyes. Maybe it was the cat gang searching the trash for food. A, a proper's food? I was starving, but I couldn't possibly ask random people to feed me. And since my wallet was missing, I didn't have any money on me to buy something. Though, there were oddly tempting looking plants growing nearby. We're gonna eat plants? That almost looks like a fish, like a fishtail almost. Buds, fixed on thick stems, were sticking out of the ground. Each plant was surrounded by a number of small mushrooms. As I stared at them, I felt a pull. Their strange appearance hypnotized me, and without noticing, my feet itched closer and closer and closer. Eat them. No way. It looks like the game wants me to eat them. So I'm not. Oh my god, what? Let's eat them. Nothing bad could happen. I couldn't really think while hungry, and who knew how long it had been since I had eaten. So it was probably either this or starving. I dug in. It didn't even taste that bad. Kind of grassy, but edible. We're eating our greens. They're so good, although it grew harder and harder to chew with every bite. Something red dripped onto the ground. I soon realized that a liquid was coming out of my mouth. I couldn't tell if it was blood or the plant's juices. More started to pour out as I panicked and tried to figure out what was going on. While feeling around my mouth, I realized that it had become totally numb. Suddenly, a fleshy chunk fell into the red pool that had started to form before my feet. Was that my tongue? My vision became blurry and my stiff body hit the cold ground. It was dark when I awoke. I could make out that I was still lying next to the plants. It seemed like no one had bothered to help me. I tried to get up, but I couldn't. My whole body was paralyzed. I felt a sudden sting traveling from my head to my feet, and the pain grew by the second. Something was happening to me. Nice. We're turning into a plant. What? Oh, that is... Are we feeling this? Or... Pretty sure he said he was numb, never mind. My hand was being bent into impossible positions. Not just my hand, my whole body. I was warping, but it seemed like it couldn't handle the transformation. My body writhed, and I snapped in two. Try again, or give up. Let's try again. Alright, don't eat them. I broke away from the hypnotic pull of the plants. What was I thinking? It didn't matter how hungry I was. They may be poisonous. But my hunger was beginning to gnaw at my insides. My vision grew blurry. Who knew how long it had been since I had eaten? Suddenly I collapsed. and the world around me vanished. It was dark when I awoke. It seemed like no one had bothered to help me. I tried to get up, but I couldn't. My whole body was paralyzed from hunger. Something was shuffling by my ear. I felt the sniffing of an animal, perhaps one of those cats I saw earlier. I couldn't bring myself to look. It lost interest and walked past me towards the plants. I heard more follow. As they pattered onto view, I noticed that something was off about them. It must have been my mind playing tricks on me. My hunger was overwhelming. Something about their bodies was wrong. They started to eat the plants. They were smacking rather loudly and made unnatural, fleshy sounds. Every now and then, one would pause and give off a low growl that didn't at all sound like a cat. It was more like a slightly higher pitched bear growl. After a while, the sounds diminished and I felt their presence vanish. I gathered my strength and forced myself to my feet. What had just happened? What had just happened? What were those creatures? The violent crimes that I had heard about earlier popped into my mind. My hands began to shake. What would have happened if I hadn't been paralyzed? What would have happened if I hadn't been paralyzed and if they had noticed that I was still alive? I took a cautious look around. Most house lights were still lit. I must have been out for long. Once again, my body gave off a deep growl. It was as if my stomach was eating itself. I had to get some food or else I was in danger of collapsing again. Should I ask someone living nearby for help? Or should I take another look around town? Ask for help or take a look around, huh? Let's ask for help. I think we've done enough looking around. I was sure that they'd turn me away, but I was desperate. This was an emergency after all. Uncertainly, I approached the closest house and knocked. I was surprised when the door actually opened. Hi there. Come on in. What did I say? Hi there. Come on in. How nice of you to visit. Before me stood a fashionably dressed woman with a big smile on her face. She seemed welcoming, but her movements were rather stiff and almost mechanical. It was as if they had been practiced over and over again. The hat, scarf, and the bag around her shoulders suggested that she was just about to leave. She seemed to notice my confused look. Oh, bag. Don't worry about it. I just think it suits me, so I've gotten used to wearing it around the house. That seemed unpractical, but I guess she was very conscious about her appearance. Now, come in. Everyone's already inside. Everyone? Do we know each other? She took another thorough look at me and seemed to realize that we did, in fact, not know each other. What? You must be a new neighbor then. I'm Sabrina. Come in. She disappeared before I could correct her. I hesitantly followed her inside. On my way in, I saw a pet food bowl near the entrance with some of the strange looking plants in it. She'd be feeding those to her pet. I peeked into the living room. A man left to his feet as he saw me and stretched his big hand out to me. His coat suggested that he was active in a scientific field and that he had gotten here right after work. His other arm hung down limply. Hi there. It's nice to meet you. I'm Frederick. How are you doing? I reciprocated his firm handshake and he cheerfully gestured me to take a seat beside him. To my surprise, the girl who had helped me earlier was here as well. I believed her name was May. She gave me a small wave. It's starting to feel like a festivity. We should have neighborhood get-togethers like these more often. Alright, this is... She turned and frowned in my direction while trying to remember a name she hadn't asked me before. Scott. I'm Scott. Right, Scott. He moved in nearby recently, I think, so I thought we should invite him in as well. Certainly, it is nice to see you. Oh, no, I'm not really... Oh, right. Give me a second. She rushed into the kitchen and came out with with steaming dishes of food. I could make out different kinds of meat, baked potatoes, and more. My stomach gave off a deep growl, and my mouth began to water. Any thought of honesty about my origin was gone. The other visitors started piling food into their plates, and I followed suit. As I devoured it, and life came back to my body, I left my eyes wander over the others. Everyone seemed to be tense, especially Sabrina and Frederick. Oh yeah, look at their eyes. And the girl is like kind of sad. Their movements were rather stiff. Every now and then they threw glances each other's way, glances that seemed to indicate mistrust. Sabrina seemed to especially be eyeing the cup that Frederick was drinking out of. Every now and then, when they noticed each other's looks, they put on a fake smile. May seemed like she hadn't planned to be here in the first place. Was she dragged into it? Just like I was? As I was cleaning my plate off its scraps, something important flashed into my mind. Excuse me, would you mind if I used your phone? Sabrina tisked. I'm afraid I don't have one. I never cared for those buggers. She looked over to Frederick. Maybe he can use yours. Of course. I can show you to my house once we're ready to go. I gave off a sigh of relief and thanked Frederick. He waved his hand in the air. No problem at all. Please excuse me for one moment, though. He shuffled out of the room, presumably towards the bathroom. All right, I'll make some more tea. She scooped up Frederick's cup and left me alone with May. I cleared my throat and nodded in May's direction. Thank you again for lending me your phone. I did appreciate that. You're welcome. I hope you will have more luck with the landline. Yeah, I hope so too. And I guess that was the end of the conversation. Perhaps she felt uncomfortable speaking to a weird smelling stranger. I'm going to go wash my dishes. And there she went. The other two were taking quite a while. I used the opportunity to let my eyes wander around the room. The walls were dressed with paintings of all kinds, pictures of nature as well as more abstract drawings. Look at the eyes. This is what we saw in the alley and what we ate but died. A framed piece of paper and a photograph that was standing on the drawer beneath it caught my eye. The former seemed to be an art degree. The latter, a picture of Frederick and Sabrina when they were the younger. Oh. They were standing somewhere that could be a university campus. Both had genuine smiles on their faces. It seemed like their friendship went back quite a bit. Hey. Whoa. Did you sneak up behind me? I thought I had a clear view of the kitchen entrance. I think I heard some rumbling coming from downstairs. It'd probably be a good idea to check it out in case Sabrina hurt herself. Kiddo, I don't trust you now. She looks nice. She looks like normal now. Oh well, Sabrina has been gone for quite a while. Maybe something did happen to her. Perhaps I should take a look. What about Frederick? May's face slightly tensed up as she heard his name. Frederick is still occupied. The way she said his name sounded almost hostile, but she sounded convincingly confident either way. I felt May's eyes follow me to the basement. I squinted down the stairs. It was almost pitch black. I solid back my nerves and carefully crept down into the darkness. Maybe I should have called out to Sabrina, but something told me not to. Why was she down here? Didn't she tell us that she'd make more tea? I managed to reach the bottom stairs and peeked around the corner. There, I saw her kneeling by lamplight in front of a large cage. A basket of the strange plants sat beside her. There. It's alright. Oh my god. Take a good sniff of the cup. We need to hurry, okay? I know that he's growing another one. I know he sent one after their parents. I'll avenge them and get rid of my biggest rival in one go. She held Frederick's cup to the bars. Something in her voice disturbed me. Her face disturbs me. Look at her eyes. Whatever was going on, I wanted no part of it. I returned to the living room as quietly as I could. There you are, all ready to go. Upon hearing Frederick's loud voice, I jumped. What I had seen in the basement had made me anxious. I took a quick look around and saw that May was already gone. Sure, I'm ready. Leaving already? I just made some more tea. I turned to see Sabrina standing in the living room entrance with a practiced smile. Sorry, dear. I'm just not young enough to stay out late like we used to. She put on a playful pout. Oh, you do wound me. Come by again. You know you're welcome anytime. We bid our farewells and set out into the cold night. I was glad to leave. What I had seen was still nagging on my mind. Frederick might be in danger. I had to tell him. I don't think Frederick is in danger. She said he was growing another one. He's growing something. I hesitated. How was I supposed to tell him when I, myself, wasn't sure what I had seen? But I collected myself and went for it. To my surprise, he wasn't nearly as upset at Sabrina as I thought he would be. He actually seemed to be more upset at me. Oh, I think you should not have snooped around in the house of someone who invited you over. I was left perplexed. What just happened? Oh, these guys are like rivals, man. These guys are villains. I thought I was warning him. But instead, I've been scolded like a child. His face relaxed, and he gave me his usual smile. Seemed slightly pained this time. I suppose there's been no harm done. Perhaps he just didn't believe me. I couldn't blame him. I noticed more and more vacant houses as we crept through the town. Some were boarded up, doors had been left wide open. Why are there so many empty houses here? These houses have been vacant for a while now. I was sure that I passed by here earlier, but I didn't notice any abandoned buildings back then. An uneasy feeling started to fester inside of me. Here we are. We stopped before a house that looked much like every other house in this town. Yeah, I was about to say, it looks like the same entrance as Sabrina's house. He stepped inside. I hesitated at the entrance before trailing behind him. Come on in. No need to be shy. Do you want something to drink? No, thanks. Frederick hesitantly grunted and led me down the hallway. I only wanted to use the phone and get out. Everything that happened today had me on edge. But what if I still couldn't reach anyone? Where would I go? I was balancing a fine line between hope and despair. The phone call would be what would topple me in either direction. Alright, here you are. The phone seemed rather old-fashioned, but at least it had buttons instead of a rotary dial. I picked up the receiver and tried a number. Please, come on. Am I doing something wrong? There's no dial tone. Huh? Let me see. He took the receiver from my hand and pressed a few buttons. He let out a disappointed sigh. Not again. Those damn rodents keep getting into my cables. I'll go take a look at it. Feel free to make yourself at home. Uh, in case you get thirsty. He fetched a small bottle of soda from the kitchen and gave it to me and went into the basement. Soda? I like Coca-Cola. It's amazing. It's weird though because it tastes different when it's like in the bottle and the cans. Like, hey, if you guys have ever had Jack in the Box Coke, oh my god. I don't know what they put in it, but it's different. It's on a different tier. It seemed like I wouldn't be able to leave quite so soon. Once I held the drink in my hand, I did start to get thirsty. I took a sip and thought about what to do next. Stay here and wait? We're not doing that. Let's take a look around. What should I check out? Check the pictures, check the living room, or check the study. Let's check the pictures. I took a look at the pictures hanging on the wall. There weren't too many, but he seemed to be pretty cheerful in all of them. Especially the ones with his dog. For some reason, I hadn't seen it around. Nothing else caught my eye. Let's check the living room. It was only one room over. Surely he wouldn't mind. He said I should feel at home after all. The living room was minimalistic and unimpressive. The TV stood in the corner, gathering dust. His bookshelf was well maintained on the other hand. I looked over the books. He seemed pretty interested in biology. I'd love to chat with him about his field sometime. Once I get out of this mess. I chose around the book without a cover and opened it. It seemed to be a handwritten notebook. I quickly shut it to check the title. It seemed like I had pulled out a fantasy book instead of notes in biology. Evolutionary development, intersections between botany and zoology. That would be a rather weird name for a fantasy novel. But the depictions on the pages confirmed it being fiction. The pages showed drawings of creatures I'd never seen before, accompanied by detailed graphs and diagrams. I returned the book and went back into the hall. Oh, he looked mad. Alright, it's all done. I jumped. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. No, it's fine. Good thing he didn't catch me snooping around. The phone should be working now. Feel free to give it a try. I'll give you some space. Call me when you're done. He took the bottle I had drunk from earlier and left through the hallway. I had an odd sense of deja vu. I shook it off and started dialing some numbers. They were the same that I already tried on May's mobile phone. Once again, they failed to connect. How could that be? I was 100% certain that they were correct. I tried all the numbers of friends, family, and even work colleagues I could think of until finally. Yes? Hello? It was a woman's voice that I didn't recognize. I was certain that I had dialed the number of one of my colleagues. Excuse me, isn't this Tom's telephone number? I don't know who that is. Are you another scam caller? Don't call me again. She hung up. Alright, something was definitely wrong here. It might be best to talk to Frederick. and see if he could help me somehow. Maybe he had a clue as to how I could get back home. I crept down the hall. He went this way, right? I began to hear murmuring. A steady chill ran down my back. The sound was coming from the basement. The old floorboard squealed beneath my toes. I saw flickers of a weak light coming from down the steps. I took them as gently as I could, as I held a hand over my mouth to quiet my breath. I reached the bottom and turned a corner. Frederick knelt before a big cage, a small lamp next to him, and he held something up to the bars. He hissed to whatever was inside. Yes, yes. You have the scent now, don't you? You must take care of this one tonight. He's curious. He will find the secret much faster than the others. No, no, no. We can't have him make something like you, too. It's kill or be killed in this town. My stomach dropped out from underneath me as I heard the horrible scraping from inside the cage. I took a step back, bumping into a wall. Before I could react, I had accidentally switched on the main light. A sudden flood of white blinded me for a moment. Once my eyes adjusted, the first thing I saw was it. What is that? Wait, plant? Is its tongue? Oh my. Look at the teeth. And the hair, the big old eyes. Jesus Christ. Frederick was screaming at me, but I could barely think about him. I couldn't look away from that creature. It was cowering inside a dirty cage that seemed to be too small for it. It had features of a dog, but I could also see some elements that were distinctly human-like. Its mouth was way too big, and the inside of it was filled with a seemingly random set of teeth, or at least something that resembled teeth. Worst of all, though, were the enormous eyes staring right back at me. Frederick fumbled with the lock on the cage. My feet finally began to move. Look at this creature. Oh my. His hand is back though. I mean, it's limp. I thought it was like gone. I ran out of the house and into the streets. All the while, on one thought was frantically running through my head. I had to get out. I had to get away from this demented town. With this thought clouding my mind, I hadn't realized that I had exited town already. I was now on a big grassy plain, breathing heavily with fear flowing my mind. I had almost not noticed how heavy my legs had become. Soon I was struggling to stay on my feet, and my vision slowly darkened from exhaustion and panic. I wanted to look back to see how close the monster was, but I was too afraid of seeing it right behind me. I gathered my courage and quickly glanced behind me, and to my surprise, the thing wasn't following me. I didn't know if it had ever followed me in the first place, but it seemed like Frederick wanted to send it after me to kill me. Realizing that I was safe for now, I stopped. My legs were numb and almost gave in, but I managed to keep standing. I couldn't believe what I had just seen. It couldn't have been real. Every inch of my body repulsed at the idea of such a monster existing. I had seen it with my own 2 eyes. I continued on at a slower pace this time, and soon came to a small but quickly flowing river. It wasn't a good night to get me clothes wet, but it looked small enough for me to jump over with a running start. I wasn't the athletic type, but I managed to leap over the gap. Suddenly, my feet staggered. A wave of fatigue came over me. It was as if I had stepped into a veil. The air had gotten heavier and my breathing became more ragged. I clutched my chest as I tried to figure out what was going on. A throbbing pain pulsed through my back. It was as if something had stabbed me. My feet gave in and my vision darkened. I could feel a presence near me. The monster. Frederick? Before I could find out, my consciousness faded. No way, is that it? Oh my god. Well, that was it for the first chapter, Pets. So that's the thing that this guy was researching. I'm, and I'm pretty sure that's what he had all of those bookcases there for. He had the botany and zoology books. So he was researching to create that creature. And Sabrina wanted to make one of her own. As for May, the little damn kid, is she really bad or is she just didn't? Nah, she has to be bad. Everybody in this town is up to something. Because she did tell us to go downstairs and find Sabrina, and that's where we find her talking to her creature that she's making. So that entire town is just filled with killers. Not even the neighbors trust each other. That would explain why they always looked at each other with like those side eyes. But I wasn't expecting it to be like some weird dog creature with a plant snake thing. Now I do wonder if the plant is actually its tongue, or was that what it was eating at the moment? Because it looked like it was its tongue, but we see the plants outside on the streets and we ate one and we ended up being contorted and warped and snapped in half. So I'm pretty sure that was what it was eating. The hair, like the long hair, the big round eyes, its body, it's like skinny. It's a skinny, huge dog that just looked creepy. With its teeth going down to its chest. Oh, I like this game. Now, there are 2 more chapters and we will play them. But we will have to do that some other time. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll see you all in the next video.